Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /EntitledPeople, where people truly believe that they can do whatever the heck they want because they're special. And in today's episode, an entitled family threatens to call police on OP for such a ridiculous reason. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the other stories as well. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And as always, story submissions can be sent to this email right here. Okay, so I have this rescue mutt that I adopted after witnessing how a car just abandoned her on the street while still a pupper. Now, because of the circumstances, I have no way of knowing how her life was before I adopted her. But she seemed to be pretty happy living with me, so I let her roam around the house and even sleep on my bed. Usually she's pretty social whenever someone comes to visit. She's a pretty good dog overall. So I was at the vet one day. I had an appointment just for a bi-monthly checkup to see if she's growing healthy, etc. So while I was in the waiting room, this kid comes up and shoves a small car toy into my dog's ear. The kid jammed it right in there. Now, this scares her so much that she pees. So naturally, I carried my dog to comfort her, and she was still pretty young at this moment. The kid then starts whining about how I won't let him play with my dog, and I explained as patiently as I could, hey, the way you use your toy with my dog made her feel uneasy. You have to be respectful and kind to other dogs because they're just like us. Now, as soon as I finish this, enter the entitled Karen. The mom starts complaining about how I was being selfish, not letting the mutt play with her kid. Now, she said it as if the fact my dog was a mutt somehow lowered her value as a living being. I then explained to the mom that the kid shoved a toy car into my dog's ear, to which the entitled mother just replied, "So what? Dogs should be able to withstand anything kids do to them. Young kids just think of dogs as toys, so let my son play with your dog." At this point, I was gonna say something when the vet comes out of the office to see what's going on. Apparently, the woman and her son came to adopt a rescue dog from the vet. The vet then replies, "Unless I see a commitment from your part to educate your son on respecting animals, I'm afraid I can't let you adopt any pet. Most of the pets we have for adoption here come from abusive households, and we won't let them be adopted by someone who sees them as objects for her child to toy with." At this point, the woman was just furious. She says, "I promised my son that I would get him a dog for his birthday." To which the vet replied, "No pet deserves to be treated like a toy by a kid, while the parents fail to educate their kid about respecting animals. My decision is final. You can't adopt any pet from here." Hearing that, the kid was crying, but neither the vet or any employee or myself cared at all. It was clear the mother just wanted to give the dog to her kid as if it was a new toy. The mother complained about how we ruined her kid's day, and she left extremely upset. Guys, unfortunately, I'm pretty sure the woman ended up with a dog one way or another. Like, if it wasn't this adoption center, it was probably another one. And OP does post a picture of their adorable dog, and here is that beautiful puppy. Look at that smile. So a little bit of backstory. This story happened about 2 years ago when I used to work for a big, very well-known shelter that's all about prevention of cruelty to animals. This is in Florida, mind you, and I won't be naming my shelter. I worked there for about 5 years. Now, I loved that job so much, but I had to leave once I moved far away. However, I do always try to make donations often. During and after that job, I always kept a lead, food, toys, cat carrier, etc. in my car at all times, in case I come across a loose animal so I can help contain them while finding the pet parent. It made me realize how many pets actually do get out, and not even at the fault of the pet parents. I've also realized just how often people leave their pets in their car for shopping. Most of the time, they do have the car on with a person inside, but a handful of times I've had people leaving their car with the windows cracked. So I always tell them about the laws in Florida when leaving the pets in the car. And you'd be surprised at how many people don't know about this law. Now, this was the most extreme I've yet to experience to this day encountering this Karen. So on to the story. So on this day, it was in the 90s, but the temperature felt more in the hundreds. Welcome to Florida. I was heading to my local supermarket to get a case of water after getting off my shift, when I spot a small puppy in the back seat of an SUV. The puppy looked to be a pit lab mix and about a few months old, very much tired and panting heavily. There was also no one in the car, and the windows were open just a crack. So I rushed inside to the customer service desk. I told them about the dog, that I would call the cops if they didn't come out soon, and they spoke over the loudspeaker calling for the owner. The associate then gave me a bottle of water to give the pup when we get him out of the car. I then went to my car, getting the lead, bowl, and toys with keys in hand. Now, I want to note that I do carry a device that allows me to punch out the window in emergencies. I also called the police to tell them about the dog and told them if the owner still hasn't come out, then I was going to punch out the window when they gave me approval, and I asked to stay on the phone for when it happened. At this point, a crowd had started to gather, all concerned about the puppy. After another 8 minutes, I had enough. I told the operator that I was punching out the window and handed my phone to a passerby. I then go to the front passenger window and use the device to punch out the window. I then crawled in, unlocked the door, as another person opened the door grabbing the dog. The dog was clearly in heavy distress, so we brought him into my cold, air-conditioned car. I was helping him drink water as the cops pull up. About 5 minutes later, the entitled mother and her child in tow come out with a cart full of groceries. As soon as she sees the busted window, she freaks out screaming, yelling about her property being damaged. And she was screaming, "I will sue whoever did this." The cops then go to her, tried to calm her down, and explained how the dog was in distress and needed to be removed from the car. The woman screaming, "That's ridiculous. We were only in there for a few minutes. The puppy's fine. We need to go home now, so give us back the dog." I was really pissed to hear this. I said, "Are you stupid? In 15 minutes, the inside of a car at this temperature can get up to 115 degrees, which is 45 to 50 degrees Celsius, which can kill any animal and any kind. It's like a damn oven. I'm taking this dog to the vet." Now, the woman was so shocked that someone dared talk back to her and the kid starts crying. She then points at me screaming that I hope I'm happy taking a dog away from a child. As I settle the dog into the front seat, the child was screaming, "Why is this strange lady taking Rusty?" The woman then starts making her way to me, but the cop stepped in the way. Her tears then turned into anger as she turned to me and screamed, "Who the heck do you think you are? You're stealing my dog, you effing C-word. You can't let her get away with this. I will sue you." At this point, one of the officers gets behind her and cuffed her hands, explained her rights to her while another was on the phone next to the crying kid. The dad then comes later to pick them up from what I heard. I turned as I went to the driver's side of the car and turned my back to her, showing the big well-known shelter staff logo in big letters across my back. I then got in the car, taking the dog to the local vet. Now thankfully Rusty was fine. He was heavily dehydrated, but if I hadn't done what I did, he would have had bad internal damage or he possibly could have died. The mom was arrested for animal cruelty and the judge awarded the dog to my shelter. The mom was registered to not have any other animals in her care or anyone else who lived with her. Apparently this was the last straw for the court, as she's already had a case against her for abusing another dog before Rusty. Rusty is now named Percy. He made a full recovery and was adopted by a wonderful family with 2 kids who had another dog in their home named Rocco. They got along as thick as thieves. It was hard to see him go, and I would have adopted him myself, but my apartment at the time doesn't allow pets. I was happy to see him off into his new life. Now I do feel bad for the kid. He was probably like 5 years old and didn't understand what was happening at the time. But I have no sympathy for the mom at all. Yeah guys, some people definitely don't deserve to have pets. And I'm so happy to hear that OP most likely saved that dog's life that day, and the woman got what she deserved. Like guys, I've read so many stories on this channel where people have smashed car windows to save an animal's life, only to have the owner come out threatening to sue for damages to their property. Like what in the world? Like what about your animal friend that's dying? And all you care about is replacing a stupid frickin' broken glass window. Okay, so for context, my apartment is at street level. Look out my front windows and I can see cars and people going about their day. I'm right by the traffic lights. Anyways, Saturday afternoon, I was chilling on Minecraft, mining away with my freshly made diamond pickaxe. After a while, I decided that I wanted to play some Grand Theft Auto with mods, to see what utter chaos I could unleash. I was soon running around Los Santos, blowing stuff up, etc., having such good fun. I sometimes do this as a way of anger management, and it really does work. So there I am, killing not real people with overpowered weapons when my doorbell goes off. I then pause my game and go to the door. It's a woman with her son and her husband. The woman looks at me and says, "So, my son was watching you play that game and I want you to stop playing it, please." Hearing that I say, "Wait, I'm sorry, what?" I then turn to my window and this kid who's about 7 years old had his face pressed up right against the window. She then says to me, "That's a really violent game, you should play something nicer." I then say to her, "Why the heck are you letting your kid get that close to my house to be able to see into my window? You're lucky I don't call police for trespassing. Please go away or I will." Now with this, the father says, "Are you deaf? She asked you to play a nicer game." I then roll my eyes at what he says and say, "This is my house. I can do whatever the heck I want. If you look in and happen to see that, That's your issue. You don't get to decide what I do in my house. The dad then says, my son doesn't want to watch that violent game. Can't you play a different game instead? I tell him, no, stop looking through my windows and go away please. This is stupid. You can't dictate what games I'm allowed to play. At this point, the Karen says, I'm calling police. You're being very rude and you're not cooperating. I tell her to go ahead. So I go back to my game and make a fuss of turning my screen a little more to the window because it's more comfortable for me, and carry on blowing stuff up. And the family are still at my damn window. So I leave the game running, get my camera, take their photo, and pick up my landline, all while standing in the window so they can see me. I then dial the non-emergency police line. I say, hello, there's like 3 strangers that trespass on my property and they're now outside my window and they won't go away. Please send someone over. The police say they'll send someone over, and a little while later, a cop pulls up outside my house. The family are still on my property. Anyway, the officers in the car start talking to the entitled parents and the kid outside. I can hear the father saying, he was letting my son watch a violent game through his windows. And the officer responding, right, he was talking through an open window? The second officer then knocked on my door and talked to me. I showed her the photo I took of them watching me, and she left. Both parents were fined for harassment, and they were told if they didn't leave right now, they would be arrested for trespassing as well. The both of them were yelling and shouting how my video games were inappropriate for kids. And then I say to them, so why were you letting your snotty-nosed, red-faced goblin child stare through my window for 20 minutes? I then spend the next hour laughing and giggling to myself, while keeping one eye on the front window just in case they came back. They never did. Guys, this post is absolutely absurd. Imagine that, just watching TV or playing video games in your home, only to have people complain about what you're playing and getting the police involved. Okay, so I have a distant friend. She's a friend of a friend of a friend type deal, and she has 3 kids, and I have 3 cats. Her kids are enrolled in a camp very close to my house. The pickup for camp is 4 p.m. The line for pickup for the kids is 3 p.m. And yes, it can take a really long time to pick up kids at that camp. A big line of cars forms every day to get the kiddies. It's a bit chaotic. Now here's the story. So the friend of a friend has been using her lunch breaks to fetch the kiddies from camp. Sometimes the traffic is so bad that she's late getting back to work. Now I'm not sure if she takes the kids with her to work or she drops them off someplace, but the situation at work is getting dicey. Her boss is sick of her coming back late. Now I live very close to the camp. My house is on the pick up your kid parade route these parents are on. So the friend of a friend has come up with a brilliant idea, in her eyes anyways. She's asked me to go get her kids for her, all 3 of them. She would like me to take them back to my house, give them a snack or something, and wait for her to pick them up. She thinks it'll be much easier to fetch them from my house than the camp, since she has to drive to the camp and I can merely walk. So I told her no, I'm not a babysitter and I'm not a nanny. I'm an artist and I have a job. I work from home and I have a job. I told her I'm not watching 3 kids under the age of 10 for unknown hours and have to provide snacks for them as well. She said that she would pay me $20 to fetch the kids. I tell her, no, I have $20, so I'm good. She doesn't find this funny, but I sure did. She then tells me that she's a single mom trying to do her best, and it takes a village, that I'm so close to the camp, and why can't I do this favor for her? I say, because it's not a favor, it's a job. I already have a job. I work from home. I'm an artist. Also, I don't know your kids. I barely know you. I'm not watching 3 stranger kids for anyone. That's just how the cookie crumbles. Well, hearing that, she's unhappy. Very, very unhappy. Her next plan is set into motion. Send in the mommy group. So she gets my friend and a few other friends to email and call me trying to guilt trip me. Nothing like a good mommy wagon train to circle around with. Except that doesn't work either. You see, I am not in high school, so the whole peer pressure thing no longer applies to my life. I don't care if they like me or not. Also, I'm not a human mommy, I'm a fur baby mommy. Other fur baby mommies don't care about such things. We're a super laid back group in general. So mommy group has made some big points with me. Number 1, how easy it would be for me to get the kids from the camp. Number 2, I could do arts and crafts with the kids until mom comes to get them. Number 3, I would not be lonely during the day because I would have kids to play with. And number 4, it would be such a nice thing to do for a single mom who's struggling with the situation right now. Now I will admit, those are all really interesting points that have absolutely no impact on me. Arts and crafts with the kids, I don't do arts and crafts, I sell art for a living, I'm not a frickin' Michaels. The kids can't help, I don't want them to, and my studio some days are a full-on wreck. I don't even let the cats in there on those days. Plus, single mommy with 3 kids is driving a nice new BMW. Perhaps she should have gotten a more economic car and a professional nanny. I reminded them all that if it was such an easy thing to do, then they too can get the kids from camp. Hell, you can park in my dang driveway if you need it, ladies. Then they can walk and grab the kids, take them home to do arts and crafts. Plus, a friend of a friend would pay them $20 for their trouble. Now, I'm not sure if that's for the week or per day, but who cares? It's like printing money at that point. All they have to do is provide the snacks and wait for her to claim the kids. Also, that's a funny reply, but still not getting a laugh from the mommy group. In fact, I only got stunned silence and I think cricket sounds. I'm not hitting my target audience with my humor. Well, it took a while for a friend of a friend to see that I'm not willing to provide childcare for free for $20 or for the sake of the village. I also pointed out that my idea of juice boxes is a Franzia refreshing white carton, and that my idea of a snack is waiting until dinner. All points she finds to be unhelpful and not practical. Sadly, friend of a friend mommy is still racing to get her kids from camp. It turns out the mommy group folks are just too busy to fetch the kitties for her too. It's a bummer, I know. I thought it would be so easy for them, since they had made such good points about picking them up. So life moves on, camp is still swinging, and the parade of cars grows longer and slower every day. And then today it happens. So I'm inside my house, sitting on my couch, binging the good and bad and ugly of street food vendors on YouTube. I hurt my back, so I'm leaning on a heating pad. You can see me from my living room window if you're on the parade of cars picking up their kids from camp. My feet are up on the coffee table, my cats are on the porch, and my juice box is right in front of me. Just then, I get an angry text on the phone. The text said, "I thought you said you were working. You said you were too busy to get kids. It looks like you're sitting there doing nothing but watching TV. What the hell is the matter with you? Why can't you be a better friend?" Well, it's the friend of a friend, and I'm thinking, neato. So I answer, I am working. I'm on my iPad drawing. I'm an artist. I can do that. Isn't my work grand? I'm too busy to get your kids. It looks like I'm watching TV because I am watching TV. You should YouTube Dancing Bacon's Street Fair in Malaysia. It's cool. I highly recommend it if you ever get a second to yourself. Also, I hurt my back, so that's what the hell is wrong with me. So thanks for asking. And I can't be a better friend because I don't want to pick up your kids. I feel if we got closer and communicated more, I would be obligated to fetch your babies. You do see how my way is much more convenient for me. I then asked her, "Are you sitting in the car outside of my house right now?" She then takes a slight pause and then replies, "Yes." I then turn around slowly with a big old wine glass in my hand, smile, wink, lift the glass, and I text, "Cheers," with a bunch of E's, R's, and S's. And she wasn't amused. There was still no laughs. I think I'm losing my touch. But are you laughing, dear reader? Yeah, definitely laughing at that situation. I could never do that for a friend of a friend of a friend. Talk about entitlement though, right? Like the way she got her friends to try to guilt trip OP into picking up her kids. Lady, it's your responsibility. And OP clearly said no, so go find other options. Guys, how many of you would have helped her out? So I've been student teaching this spring in a 6th grade class. It's been a stressful semester, but a good one. Since day one, I've been treated like a colleague and an equal by my teacher and her grade level partners. I am also very baby-faced, so I don't always look like I'm in my 20s, but I know the kids very well, so they already have respect for me and we have a decent relationship. So this week, we're on a camping trip with a total of 4 classes. I finished student teaching, but my teacher invited me on as a teacher to get the experience. We mostly hung out at the medical lodge and make sure kids get their meds each day. Easy gig after months of teaching. The kids are happy to see me. Anyways, we arrive at camp and I rode on the bus with my teacher. 2 of the other teachers drove their cars with student luggage, and so did some parents. So I got off the bus and start to head down to the lodge with the other teachers for the meeting with the camp director and counselors. I stopped to fill up my water bottle before heading down. As I was finishing up, a mom comes up to me and I smiled and was about to greet her when she says, "Hey, you can't wear that." I say to her, "Excuse me?" She then says to me, "Young lady, that is so inappropriate for a school setting. You're gonna distract my son and all the other boys. I'm gonna have to ask you to change as soon as we get to our cabins." Now for reference, I was wearing jeans, a black undershirt, and a tank top with thick straps that covered my bra. You literally only saw my black undershirt that kept my bra from being seen through my shirt. Oh, and it was 100 degrees Fahrenheit. At that, I let out a small chuckle. I thought it was a silly mix-up that we could laugh about later, but that set her off. The woman then yells at me and says, "Don't you dare laugh. I'm serious. Who's your teacher? You are so disrespectful. No wonder you're dressed like that. You're trying to get the boys' attention, I bet." At this, I put on my best polite teacher dealing with parents smile and say, "Whose parent are you?" She then told me, and her kid was a troublemaker from another class. I then say to her, "Mrs. Karen, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I'm not a student, I'm a teacher. And the camp's dress code allows my students to wear tank tops, so do not ask them to change." As soon as I finish saying that, she says, "Now you're lying to me? Where's your teacher? I'm getting you sent home." At this point, one of my teacher's partners, Mrs. A, overheard the yelling, and she comes over also in a tank top. She then says, "Is there something you need, Mrs. OP?" I then shook my head. I say, "No, I was just introducing myself to Mrs. Karen, and she didn't know Mrs. T had a student teacher this year." Mrs. A then nodded earnestly. She says, "Miss OP has been such an asset to us all semester. Your son actually got a few science lessons from her this year. She's gonna be a great teacher." And the Karen was absolutely red in the face. Later that afternoon, we brought all the parents down to our air-conditioned lodge to talk to them about the week ahead. Mrs. T, who's kind of our grade team's captain, introduced me to the parents. Everybody except Karen was happy to meet me, and a few even said their kids loved having me as one of the teachers. The best part of the week so far was when her son runs up to me at dinner and asks me in front of his mom, "Miss OP, can you teach 7th grade next year so you can be one of my teachers? I'm really going to miss you." Guys, I love how that woman mixed OP up and didn't even apologize or anything. But hey, that's our /entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the stories today. If you did, hit that thumbs up, and if you missed the last episode on the channel, I'll link it right here. It's an r/I don't work here lady, and Karen gets frickin' tasered because she assaults a correctional officer. It's such a crazy story, so go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.